This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to PTBN's NBA Team Podcast with all your off-season tracking and showing and going and comings and all those fun things. I am one of your co-hosts, Andrew Riche. I'm joined by Adam Murray. Adam, you were able to punch out a solo episode for the listeners to try to get some of the deets out. Now we're here to talk the dirt, now that the deets are gone.
It's so difficult.
It is because of the hard cap. It's because of this damn second apron. Thanks, CJ McCollum, who got traded, by the way.
Because yes, our episodes are hard capped. So
yeah, we're hard capped. Yeah, we can't go past the second apron of podcast recording duration. Yes, because there's so many more reasons in order to get hard capped. Because people don't want to pay, because owners aren't willing to pay that extra money, except for a couple of them that we'll talk about that actually went to past the second apron. Most of them don't mind using these exceptions in order to hard cap themselves because they already know we're not going to go past a certain number amount of money to pay. Well, by doing so, you see all these different weird deals like Karis LeVert signing for 2 years. Well, why? Well, it's because he signed the mid-level exception to go to Detroit. So you see all these weird things. And then Milwaukee just threw every CBA complication in the book within the span of 4 hours, about a day after the first day of free agency. I mean, a wave and a stretch, then use cap space, then use the room exception to keep Kevin Porter Jr. It is a mess. And I don't mean it's like a mess in that the Bucks are a mess. Some people are highly criticizing the moves that they made. I actually kind of liked it because it gives the Bucks a future in case Giannis wants to leave.
Oh, if Giannis wants to leave, they gain back every draft pick.
Correct.
So it's not, and they get, 2 to 3 starters, most likely from that. Not, I wouldn't say good starter, but starters, period. I mean, looked at the most famous trade of Kevin Durant from Brooklyn to Phoenix.
Yeah.
You got Miles Bridges, whom they flipped for 4 or 5 firsts. You got Cam Johnson, whom they just flipped. They can retool granted, how they retool is completely separate. So this right now, we're going to do part one. Part one, if we had taped, prior, this episode would have been called The Need to Draft Best Available.
Yeah.
Because that's what seemed like what happened. That we don't need to draft for positions we need. It doesn't matter if we're log jammed. We're just going to draft the guy we want anyways. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, let's hit the draft first. Because that came before the free agency started, and I put a lot of moves together. Dallas gets Cooper Flag, of course. The Spurs get Dylan Harper. Good fits. The Sixers, unsurprising.
Let's just stop with.
To me, Harper going to San Antonio was not a surprise. I saw that one.
I didn't say it wasn't a surprise. It was the best available. It was what you kind of have to do, but you have De'Aaron Fox, you have Steph Castle, you have
you have Vassell, who's a guard.
I was gonna say Vassell. So you got those 3 right there, and you're gonna add a 4th, and there's already we don't think Fox and Harper can play together.
Wonder if these injuries are in the back of these GMs' minds of we just have to have a good backup in every position if we want to get to the playoffs. Because you never know. You never know when the bottom's going to fall out and you lose your star player to an injury, which happened 3 or 4 times in the playoffs. I wonder if that's in the back of their mind when they were making these picks. Cooper was a slam dunk. I mean, everyone knew that was coming down the wire. The Sixers took VJ Edgecombe. I wasn't that surprised. Some people were saying that VJ was trying to avoid a Sixer workout. I think that was a little bit of phooey. Then the Hornets took Con Knipple, and then the Jazz said, screw it. We don't care if he doesn't want to work out for us. We're going to take Ace Bailey anyway. And that's when it got intriguing.
Yes, because Washington was like, oh man, we had a player who
they took the next best, which was Trey Johnson. Yes.
Okay, let's just quick backtracking. Philly, you got Edgecombe, but what you got Johnson and Maxey, and You got Maxey and Edgecombe.
I think Edgecombe is a good replacement for George if you unload George. That's just my opinion.
Edgecombe's a good replacement for George, who's like 6 inches shorter.
I think he can play the 3 in the NBA. Talking about Edgecombe because of his
but they're
athleticism.
all sort of the same. And Johnson there, who had his rookie season cut short due to injury. I mean, the biggest loser there was Quentin Grimes, who's like, they're going to pay me $25 million. I'm good. And they drafted another guard. So now I'm third string. Crap. Knuppel.
It's a surprise. Some people really like his game. I mean, he's white, so immediately people give all these different stereotypes to him. But he does have certain attributes that make you think, man, he could be a good NBA player if he, like he lifts off, like he always plants on 2 feet when he makes a choice, so he can like pivot in different ways. Is one thing I saw. He's a good decision maker, and I think I think the Hornets will not regret that.
They
pick.
needed shooting, and he can shoot. Good enough.
Right.
Trey Johnson to Washington. It replaces Jordan Poole, so it frees up his minutes. He's also a volume scorer like Poole. So
if you said before this day started that Trey was going to fall to them at 6, they didn't have to move, I think they'd have been happy with it anyway. The only thing about Washington is like, this is the 3rd year in a row they've taken a guard in the draft. So how many times are you going to do this?
They no.
Bub. Well, they took Bub last year.
Last year was Sarr. Bub,
but they had Bub in the first round.
George were add-ons. Their main pick was Alexander Sarr. Utah, the biggest loser on that is basically any pick that Danny Ainge made. Because now Austin comes in and just says, yeah, I don't care about all the log jams. I don't care about this. I don't care about every thing you have. I got 2 guys, which we'll get to the other one later. I got 2 guys I like who didn't want to come here, and they're going to get minutes over the guys you wanted and were already here and happy to be here. So
the argument I can make for Utah is that they may have, outside of Flag, gotten the most talented player in the draft. That's possible.
However, you have Walker Kessler, you have
lack of cohesion on the organization.
John Collins, you have Lauri Markkanen. They all can't play they all can't play the same position.
Your previous picks, which were kind of like sort of 3-4 guys, Hendricks and
Hendrickson and Collins, they're the 4. Kessler's the 5. Markkanen, it has to slide to the 3. So if you get Ace Bailey, he's got to be a big 2. And
you can't play him with Keontae George because Ace Bailey's idea is like, I'm just going to chuck up shots. You can't play with Keontae George.
Isaiah Collier. Cody Williams, everything all these picks they gathered are all just completely like thrown out.
I think they're just punting again of like, look, if we might be able to get a big deal down the road that'll turn us around, or we'll get the big pick at the end.
We'll flip Markkanen for somebody,
or we'll tank again to get this time we'll get number 1 to get AJ DeBanza or Darren Peterson, who's one of the top guys next year. Then the Pelicans. So they have the 7th pick here. That was their pick originally. They take Jeremiah Fears.
Why don't you like that pick?
Because he's small and because he doesn't have much of a jump shot. But some people say his handle is fantastic. So if he can run pick and roll, that's great.
You know who was small and didn't have a jump shot?
Who's that?
Rondo.
Yeah, we had playoff Rondo once upon a time.
And he was also lightning fast too. So
yeah,
I don't know. You have Jordan Poole, who's just gonna shoot anyways. You have Zion Williamson, who's just gonna shoot anyways. Get a lightning guy who could just bring push the movement.
Now, here's where I'm going to jump out of sequence because we got to talk about this. So, because there are picks between 7 and 13. Here's what happened. Atlanta had that pick. Joe Dumars calls up. He wants to get into 13 because Derek Queen fell, and he wanted Derek Queen really badly, the big man from Maryland. He gives up an unprotected first-round pick to Atlanta next year, which was a stunner. It literally like had every draft guru's jaw dropping when it got announced. And they took Queen. The Hawks, they took the deal, of course. Who doesn't? And the Pelicans at 13 took Queen. I mean, it's a horrible deal. I mean, what do you want me to say? You never, ever, ever, ever give up a first round pick unprotected at that just to move up spots. Like there was a possibility that Queen could have just fallen at 15 or 16 or wherever the hell they were. They could have just worked with Portland or another team to get to 16 or 17, and they probably could have gotten Queen then. But Joe Dumars this is the guy he wanted. This is the guy that he wanted, and you gave up next year's first round pick to get Derek Queen now. And it's a head scratcher. It's really head scratching. I literally dropped to my knees when I found out that we gave up a first round pick next year for this.
Their logic is, if we're good and it pays off, what does it matter? Okay, I get that.
Can you play with Zion Williamson?
There are similar players, but who knows if they can.
My theory here is that once you're out the lottery, just wait. Just wait for your guy. If he's not there, fine. Take the next best thing. I don't get it. But
I thought you liked Queen.
I did, but you don't give up a first round in the future to do it. We'll talk about what the Nuggets did with an unprotected first. That's in 2032. That's whatever. You're winning. You're trying to win right now. This is a win now move for a team that hasn't won in like 5 years. So this just doesn't make sense.
It's the New Orleans way, though we think we are better than we actually are.
Yeah. Okay. In between that, Brooklyn, this is the funniest. This is the other funny one that happened. They had 5 draft picks. Now you're thinking to yourself at this point, they actually had 4. They gained one in one of those Boston deals. I think it was the one involving Drew Holiday. And by doing that, you're thinking, oh, they're gonna bundle these picks together that move up to get into the lottery to get like 2 lottery guys. Nope. They used all 5 of them.
My guess is nobody wanted to trade down.
Igor Demon, Nolan Traore from France, both point guards. Drake Powell, who I like, he played North Carolina. And then later in the first round, Ben Saraf, another guard from Israel, and Danny Wolf, a 4-year, 5-year player who played at Michigan and Yale. Those were their 5 guys.
Now you like Danny Wolf, and
I like Danny Wolf. Yes, he fell. It was sad to watch him cry, waiting for his pick to be called, but that happens.
I mean, the biggest loser here is Cam Thomas. Mm-hmm. you literally just replaced the entire backcourt. Okay, basically, this is my thought on Brooklyn. Everyone's like, "That's terrible." Number one, Igor Dremen is not bad in the Ben Simmons,
his shooting
Josh
is suspect,
Giddey.
but he's got point guard skills. I'll say that.
In the Ben Simmons, Josh Giddey mold of a 6'9" guy who can play point guard. Okay, you got 5 picks. How many? And you look at you're the draft guru. You're the NBA historian. How many picks from any given draft are actually good? Maybe 8?
I'd say about 10 out of the 30.
Yeah.
In terms of actually good, you mean like all-star caliber? Is that
what you mean? I mean like on a roster for like that has a good 10-year career.
15 out of the 60. And in the second round,
if you're lucky if it's 2 or 3.
You're lucky if it's 3. Yeah.
And those are usually the top
I'd say 15. Awesome player, maybe 8 to 10.
So why not? We're going to take 4 guards. We know no matter whom we pick, 2 to 3 of these 4 guys are going to fail anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Period. They're not going to even
bites at the apple. Yep.
Yeah. So let's just get 4, and then we'll build our team around this sort of philosophy we want, and the best ones win the QB competition type thing of. I'm not against it. And also you have Dremen and Traore. Yeah, 6'9", 6'3". They could play next to each other. That's
fine.
That's
that's the thing I'm going to say, because there are other foreigners we could talk about in a second that got drafted. But the other trend we're seeing is that young foreigners do not want to wait. They want to go over now. And there's a lot of reasons why. Number one, they want to get to their next contract as soon as possible. Secondly, the money in the NBA for rookie scale is higher than what EuroLeague can offer. So why don't you nobody wants to wait a year and do draft and stash. So Saraf, another guy who went to Boston, Hugo Gonzalez. I'm trying to think, Traore.
Hugo coming Gonzalez over now. People are asking me about him. Like the only reason I knew him is because BYU offered him $1 million last year and he turned it down to stay at Real Madrid. So of course, this is why the foreign kids are like, I'm going to come over because I could just take NIL money and go to college right now.
I'm not fond of that foreign class. The only one I think might be good is the Bulls one, Noah Asenge. He actually kind of reminds me of Ben Mathurin. So I think he's actually going to be decent. The other one, then after Brooklyn, the Raptors took Colin Murray Boyles. That actually wound up being Masai Ujiri's last pick because he got fired the next day.
everything you could preface with Toronto of I don't understand it. Yes, he's a nice defensive player who works on that team who doesn't play defense. They appear on paper and through like rosy colored glasses like the Sacramento Kings we fell in love with like 3 years ago, this positionless team, and they shouldn't work, but somehow they do. Boyles fits in sort of that way of
they have him slide as a power forward, but I see him. I've seen him play the guard position in college,
and that's I think what they're going to do is just move everyone around, and everyone could guard everybody, and that's their philosophy. Whatever.
The Suns took Kaman Malawak. I like him, just a big body. Then they take Mark Williams in a trade. And it's like, okay, well, why did you take Malawak if you were picking up Williams in a trade?
And you already had Nick Richards.
Yeah, so that was a weird one. I trust the Grizzlies when they draft. So they go up and they get Cedric Howard, who was going to go to Duke. He was originally played at Eastern Washington and Washington State. He was a riser, so I trust them. I trust their draft process.
At this stage of the game, that's what everyone's thinking. But this was also, we are Wednesday, June 27th.
Then you see the positional need stuff. The Thunder, they just need another big behind Hartenstein, so they get Thomas Sorber. The Spurs get a wing and Carter Bryant. The Wolves get another big man out of France, Joan Beranger, who I'm assuming will play immediately. Some people thought the Heat got a steal when they got Kasparas Yakashunas from Illinois as a point guard.
That's what happens with these good teams. They fall. Good players somehow fall to them, and nobody knows how. And there was no reason for him falling, other than
Atlanta getting Asian Newell. Some people thought Newell was going to go higher than that. And this is what I'm trying to say for the Pelicans. Sometimes you just have to wait and see what happens. Sometimes the guy you want's there the whole time. So the Kings take Newt Clifford. I like him. The Magic took Jason Richardson's son. Then it just kind of like devolves from there in terms of the second round.
Yeah, that's you mentioned Noah Esenge, who kind of plays the same position and the same skill set as Midas Budizelis. So
he's an attacking guard. That's how I see it when I watch Esenge.
But I guess I don't know. You forgot to mention that Portland traded down from the 11th so Memphis could get Cedric Howard, and then took Chinese center Yang Hansen.
Yeah, but he might actually be a stash. I don't know if they're going to bring him over immediately.
No, I believe he's coming over.
I mean, they have the room. We'll talk about it in free agency, but they have the room to make it work. So, and then they bought out DeAndre Ayton right after that.
And the second one, Walter Clayton Jr., who I guess
he was
in an interview said, 3 people you could have dinner with, and one of the pick was like Spolstra, and Miami already wanted him, and so that was.
He went to Utah.
Yes, I was to say Austin Ainge traded up to snatch him. They snatched 2 guys.
He was the Final Four MOP. He originally played at Iona under Rick Pitino. Then he transferred to Florida. Strong guard, not too big, decent shooter. He can get to the line. I hate to say this because he didn't really pan out. He reminds me of Frank Mason, but I think he's stronger and bigger than Frank Mason.
Okay. Any surprises out of anything, or other than, we're not going to say that Brooklyn took 5 picks because
I was surprised that the Brooklyn didn't bundle the picks.
Any players you surprised went too high besides?
I was surprised that Ben Saraf went in the first round. It got to a point where I think tax-paying teams just wanted, they didn't want to have a project, so they were willing to take on a project, so they were like, let's just take this guy that we can develop over the next couple of years.
That's what
Demon went higher than I thought.
Charlotte taking Concanoople, and then all of a sudden Liam McNeely falls. Like they're the same guy.
Well, they're white, yes,
they're the
but
same
they are
white
different.
Shooter. It's just like, okay.
No,
Rasheed Fleming, I was surprised fell.
In terms of the first round, I didn't have too many surprises. We didn't even mention Will Riley going to the Wizards, But overall, Walter Clayton Jr. was a reach, and that's fine. Rasheed Fleming was the first pick of the second round, which now has become a guaranteed contract. So I very much anticipate that he's going to get a guaranteed 2-year contract from the Suns. But yeah, that was a bit of a fall. I think Ryan Kalkbrenner is going to play in the league for a long time because he's a shot blocking big man.
Well, he went to Charlotte, who traded all their centers to Phoenix.
I don't think he's going to be an awesome player, but I liked him in college at Creighton.
He'd be no worse than Nick Richards.
Johnny Broome was a good college player, but his athleticism is not good, and he suffered a hurt ankle at the end of his season. He went to the Sixers. I don't know what his range is as an NBA player, but people are going to know who he is. I thought getting Maxime Raymond was good for the Kings. I thought getting Kobe Brea, who was the best shooter out of the whole crop, was good for the Suns. There were a couple of guys there, and then there were we don't have to go through them all.
Second
but they had
round is just two-way.
They had undrafted free agents that were kind of interesting. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head because we'll see them in summer league, but that happens. Austin Reeves was an undrafted free agent, and they just kind of come out of nowhere.
All right, so that wraps up the draft, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, the most surprising things involved teams that were seemingly trying to do like win now moves, and they made themselves worse in the process. That was the only surprise.
Okay, so let's move on to free agency, which started early.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be midnight, as I had mentioned. Now it's 6 p.m. Yep. I guess, so you can have the primetime special. I think this episode would have been called something like "In Like a Lion, Out Like a Lamb," or like a whirlwind.
It just escape the second apron. That's all it was about. It was about, okay, can we get guys on discounts? And people started immediately using their mid-level exceptions. Dorian Finney-Smith was the first announced move, like you had said on the mini episode. That's basically a mid-level exception. Maybe a little more than that.
But
Karis
I
LeVert
meant
was a mid-level exception.
Within 2 days, we had the majority of signings almost done.
Yeah, but remember this too. The crop had already shrunken in half or more because they had signed most of those players who were the big fish. They had already signed deals leading up to that. So there were people. Jared Allen was one. Jared Allen signed a deal like well in advance. Like there's a couple of, all the RFAs had been signed except for Josh Giddey. So
Giddey and Kuminga and Thomas, who are.
Mm-hmm. And they're waiting their turn. My guess is that if any of them are going to, and Grimes, and if any of them are going to get actually wind up in a new destination between those 4 players, RFAs, it's probably going to be Kuminga, and Kuminga, it will be a sign and trade. But yeah, Giddey will sign with Chicago. That's the only reason Chicago is one of the only teams with cap room still, because they need the room in advance to sign Giddey. The Nets are the weird one because even if they sign Cam Thomas to a rookie extension in the range of like $30 million, they're still under the cap. So they might have teams looking to dump salaries over there.
It wouldn't be. Oh, I forgot one quick draft. We went through all the winners and losers. Are you content with who you big winners and losers of the night? Atlanta winner.
Atlanta, I think, was a winner just because they got Newell and traded down and still got him. The loser is the Pelicans because they lost a draft pick just to get a guy. So that makes you a loser. I think the Nets are losers because they weren't able to move up. And I think a winner was the Charlotte Hornets. I thought the Hornets actually they hit with all of their picks, which were 2 Duke guys, a Creighton guy, and a UConn guy. But I think that they actually did well.
And I also recall last year we did this episode, I was referencing past reviews, and a lot of people gave James Bouknight an A+, and that he fell to them at 8 or 9. And
well, now we know why he fell. It's just sometimes things like that. And also the Wizards getting Trey Johnson and Will Riley. I think those were good picks.
Okay, so moving on to free agency, I went over most of the numbers. All we missed was really DeAndre Ayton, who cleared waivers and signed maybe I think like 20 minutes after I
it was 2 years, 16 million. So what's happening with the Lakers is that they are now hard capped, and they were able to they basically split their mid-level exception into 2 guys, Jake LaRavia, who's tight with Austin Reeves, and he signed there, decent signing, and then they get DeAndre Ayton. Defensively, there's a lot of issues there because some people think Ayton defensively is not going to be able to last at the center spot.
Oh, they don't. That team is not going to play defense at all.
And LaRavia defensively, he doesn't have a reputation either, but he's a good scorer. He's a good playmaker. Can he play alongside Reeves? I hope so. And they re-signed then they because of the fact that they were hard capped, they can't go past second apron. They didn't have a lot of room after that. So all they could do is sign Jackson Hayes. LeBron James opts in. Then basically Rich Paul puts out a statement saying, he wouldn't mind being traded, which is basically what
LeBron's doing
what he
what
said.
LeBron's and
yeah, okay, but here's the difference. I know this is a thing that will be talked about forever. Okay, so we're gonna keep this short and sweet. But what it really is that this is the first time that LeBron's not really in control of the situation, where the Lakers are actually making moves without the Clutch Sports Summit in the back of their head telling them what to do. Now they're just making moves to please Luka because they want to get him to sign an extension. That's the real dilemma. Now LeBron is second fiddle and he knows it.
I know Rich Paul is just doing the agent thing, but who would trade anything for a 3-month rental of LeBron for 50?
There's all the speculation, okay? But there's a couple teams that realistically could do it. But for me, there's only one team that could do it and actually explain it to their fan base, and the fan base would be fine with it.
Is Minnesota.
Knicks. The Knicks.
Oh, I would have said
because if they traded Towns' contract for straight up for James, I think they would forgive him. I think they'd say, that's fine. We had that 1 year of LeBron James.
Just so they could sell jerseys.
And then you would have the space because you wouldn't have the town stuff.
But I would imagine the Lakers would be like, well, we need all these things.
Why do you say the Wolves?
Because the Wolves are desperate, and this is sort of the end of the window, and you could give up Gobert.
You can talk me into that.
That's why I said they should have gotten Durant, because you have a team. Windows, as we said, closed super early, so why not take a stab at it and fall short, like Dallas, as opposed to just sort of faltering and never really getting there.
Just trading Gobert is not enough, though. You'd probably have to trade Reed, who you just signed. That'd be tough.
But they wouldn't offer a ton. It would be Gobert and
Conley's contract and DiVincenzo's contract,
and one lower player. So it wouldn't. Nobody's going to give you a haul. Nobody's going to give you I probably would even say a first for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what he's doing.
He's stuck between a rock and a hard place, and he knew it. He's like, okay, the only thing I can do is hem and haw about how I want to play for a winner and put out a statement. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's a marketplace for it. And then immediately, people were talking about it, saying, I've talked to teams and teams aren't interested. The Cavs aren't interested. The reason why people are like, why aren't the Cavs interested? The fucking Cavs are well into the tax, and they're staring down an Eastern Conference that the Celtics just lost their best player for a year. The Indiana Pacers just lost their best player for a year, and Giannis might not even be a Milwaukee Buck come media day. So there's a good chance that the Cavaliers are going to be the only good team left in the East, along with the Knicks. So I understand why they're going to stay in the tax. They're going to go for it, Adam. Why would you add LeBron James?
If the second apron wasn't a thing and you're just paying a shit ton tax for him, okay, why not? One last year, give yourself every possible chance to win. Since you have to trade, who would you trade on Cleveland's roster for him? Who would, like Miami, who would you trade on? There's any championship team is not going to carve out $55 million.
They can't. Here's the thing. Cleveland, and this is what I'm trying to explain to people. Cleveland can't do it because they can't hard cap themselves at the second apron. They're too far past it. They can't. So the only way to do it is a buyout. And remember, second apron teams can't buy buyout guys. So it's not going to happen. It's not going to Cleveland. It's just not happening. The only things that Cleveland did, they re-signed Sam Merrill. They gave up Ty Jerome. And they traded Isaac Okoro for Lonzo Ball. And they didn't really do much. But that team will be ready to go with their lineup of Mitchell, Mobley, Garland, Allen, DeAndre Hunter, Max Strus. That team will be ready to go next year to try to take another stab at it.
Plus, Lonzo is, I believe, is a team option the second year.
Probably very likely because of his injury history. I wouldn't be shocked if that was the case.
And Okoro has 2 years.
Milwaukee was weird because of the fact that they used cap space to get Turner, but they had to get under, so they turned Damian Lillard into a wave and a stretch, which it was a shocker. But now that's dead cap for 2 more years. It's just not as damaging because it's only $20 million on the books for 2 more years instead of $50 million for 2 more years. So I guess you could say that was a good idea for Milwaukee. What you wonder is how much input did Giannis have? My take is that I don't believe the Chris Haynes bullshit about how Giannis is upset. I think Giannis was in the know on it the whole time.
There's a difference between in the know and going, all right, and then I'm upset that you didn't call him and didn't do these things, and just he found out allegedly on social media, like everyone finds out these days.
Mm-hmm.
You can still be irked about that.
He can, but I don't think he's sitting there going, man, my team is worse. I think with Turner, they're better. Getting Bobby Portis back, getting Porter back, getting Trent back. Then
getting Miles Turner, he's not the missing piece for this team, but he's younger than 64-year-old Brooke Lopez now.
And you weakened the Pacers. You weakened your rival team.
Yeah, you take the rival. Plus, we mentioned how they have no bench. You re-sign Porter. That's an overpay. What? He's good for them. You got Kevin Porter back. You got Taurean Prince. You got Gary Trent. You got Gary Harris on a minimum.
Yes.
So you have depth finally.
For the other one that's paying, like, right skirting that tax line, and they're a contender, or they're trying to be a contender, I think a winner was the Nuggets, because the Nuggets were able to add Cam Johnson. They traded away Michael Porter Jr., and they got a lesser salary Cam Johnson who fits better. Then you trade away Dario Saric, who did fucking nothing for you last year. You get Jonas Valanciunas. As we are speaking, there's a rumor that Jonas Valanciunas might take a lesser deal
to go to
Europe, but which means that he would take a buyout. The thing is, they get Tim Hardaway Jr. This is why I like what they did. You get Johnson, but you get Tim Hardaway Jr. and you get Bruce Brown on minimum contracts. That means you have your taxpayer mid-level exception free to go to use on someone else. So this team will be better next year.
They got lucky. Also in the winner column, Atlanta, they picked a direction. They're going all in, getting Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Luke Kennard. They are
flirting with the tax. They hard capped themselves by signing Luke Kennard. So
I don't understand that move.
I think people are in love with their moves because the East is open and it thinks it's going to launch them along with Orlando into like that spot along with Cleveland and New York, and because they think Boston and Indiana are going to be out of it. I don't know. I think that they're better, especially with Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think that was a good signing, but I just don't know. Like, Trae Young has got to show me that he can be the leader of an awesome team. Also, is Porzingis even going to play? He had a lot of health issues.
But that's a major upgrade. And you like I said, you sign Alexander Walker and Luke Kennard to be your 6th and 7th man.
Let me say this: N-A-W, Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Yeah,
along with Daniels, that's a terror of a backcourt defensively. Like they're gonna cause a lot of problems defensively.
But you got James Johnson, who just got $150 million last year.
Yeah, Jalen Johnson. Right.
Jalen. I always say James because I'm always wrong.
Maybe they could sign James Johnson to fight people. They got a Kongwu, Reza Shea, look good down the stretch his rookie year. They're going to be I agree with you on that, Adam. They're going to be better than they were last year. They're not going to be a play-in team next year. They're going to be a playoff team. Now, how good they're going to be, I'm not sure. Boston, they couldn't do much.
I'm just jumping through because a lot of the moves are just minor, and Houston, I don't really understand. You'll need to explain it. Everyone's like, that's awesome, but I don't know why you're getting Clint Capella. You re-signed Jabari Smith for a deal, and then you get Dorian Finney-Smith.
So Dorian Finney-Smith hard capped them basically, so they can't really do much after this. So they were able to do moves to fit Fred VanVleet, so they turned down his team option. They signed him for less. Good. The Jabari Smith deal doesn't kick in until 2026-27. I didn't understand it because you're basically forcing yourself to have to make moves to get under or go past the tax if you think you're good enough, along with Jabari Smith. Steven Adams got re-signed before the season even started. Clint Capella was nothing because that was small money, so I don't care about that. They also turned down all their team options for Jeff Green, Jayshawn Tate, and Jock Landale, which was expected. They got Green and Tate on minimums. They cut Landale outright. So I think what it is that they just had the room to stay under the tax and get Kevin Durant, and that felt like a win for them, even though they had to lose Jalen Green.
But that's just putting a lot on Reed Shepherd. And
I just think it gives them a window of only 2 years, because once the Jabari Smith Jr. contract kicks in and then the eventual Amen Thompson contract kicks in, it's like,
but
okay,
what's their backcourt depth?
Mm-hmm.
Because that frees up, log jams, and so you got Cam Whitmore and Reed Shepherd who move up. Okay, now who's backing up Reed Shepherd? Aaron Holiday?
Yeah, I mean that's why they signed him back. And you're gonna have to play Tate a little bit more than you did in the previous years. Ime Udoka's gonna have to work some lineup magic. I'll say that. But that team is good. That team is a good team. We'll definitely talk about them in the future. Memphis sort of went for it, like you had said on the show. The max extension, the renegotiation extension for Jaren Jackson Jr. is puzzling. The only way I can explain it to myself is this means that Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be the centerpiece of the offense and the defense. And Triple J is going to be ready to go. And he's not going to be a guy who's just going to sit there and park at the 3-point line because he's scared of getting in foul trouble. He's actually going to be an attacker inside. That's the only thing I hope for.
And then you got Ty Jerome to be the biggest loser
that was a room exception. So they actually had the cap room after they dumped. I guess you want to say dumped Desmond Bane for the 4 first round picks. Is that fair to say?
I don't know if they were even looking to. Nobody really thought he would be the one that be moved.
They got KCP, who's solid, but they got Cole Anthony, but there's rumors everywhere
Cole's getting bought out.
Correct.
The biggest loser from Memphis. The biggest loser from Memphis is all those gems they found in the second round and undrafted free agents, because now, Ty Jerome, thanks for playing.
Wells, Cam Spencer, Cedric Coward, who they just drafted, right?
Yeah, so you like these guys, but then
they are keeping it together. They're just saying, look, we're good. We're not going to break this up yet. Just because we traded away Desmond Bane for picks doesn't mean we're giving up. That's what free agency clearly showed. Detroit, I thought, was smart because they were able to make additions like Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert, and they actually stayed under the cap, which was really good. I think the reason why they're doing it is because they have to give themselves the room in the future, because Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey are up for raises. I think that's the big reason why.
What's wrong with a Fears, Jordan Poole, Trey Murphy, Zion, and some sort of Derek Queen?
What have they won? What is Jordan Poole? I mean, here's the funny thing. Jordan Poole won an NBA championship as a 6-man.
Yeah, but they're all losers. But look at the roster you had.
Mm-hmm.
This roster, and last year was complete log jams, as you had Hawkins, who just kept on the bench, and Murphy kept blocking Jones.
Well, Sadiq Bey's going to play. And he's not a bad player at all. He's coming off of an Achilles tear.
On paper, if they weren't in the West, I would have been like, this is a decent team.
They've got a shot, but in the West, it's a little too loaded for them.
I mean, in the West, it just takes
There were teams that desperately wanted Trey Murphy III, which I get because he's a future star. DeJounte Murray, I don't know what we're going to get out of him with the 3 years left on his deal and the fact that he's coming off a torn Achilles. Kevon Looney is a great offensive rebounder. He literally can't do anything else. But the Pelicans did not mind hard capping themselves to sign Looney. So it's like, okay, we're not going to go past Gail Benson not wanting to pay tax is not shocking. Okay, this team has to prove they can win. It's like Minnesota. Like, if you can prove you can win, then we'll pay tax. But can this team prove they can win? We'll find out in October and November and December, but my guess is no, because I think the injuries will get the best of them again.
Speaking of October, November, December, as we wrap up, the Knicks traded Thibodeau for Mike Brown. Thoughts?
Why didn't they just take a top assistant? If all these teams are going to blockade you from interviewing their head coaches, just hire the best assistant. Like, hire Dave Bliss from Oklahoma City, or hire God Shamgod. I don't fucking know. Like, just hire a top assistant. Like, what's the problem with that? But they went with whoever was not clung to the wall, and that happened.
They went with a retread, and that just doesn't.
Well, they were gonna wind up with a retread no matter what, but it got to a point where they were like, okay, I guess we'll interview Frank Vogel. Well, the Dallas Mavericks are like, no, we're gonna hire him as our top assistant.
But not really a good. I don't know.
He proved he can coach offense in Sacramento. He had had a reputation.
Play a bench.
That's the problem. He never played a bench in Sacramento. He had a defense reputation before that. So I don't know what to expect there. My expectation is that you're going to get a lot of the same thing that you saw from Thibodeau. So why did you fire Thibodeau at all? That's the confusion of it.
For a team that was riding a high, that just seems like,
I mean, I think they know they got a shot. I think they know they've got a shot. So they said,
Mike Brown was the missing piece.
Let's just take a retread coach who's not going to piss off our star players. I did want to bring up these guys they used exceptions for. The Spurs using theirs on Luke Cornett. What you thought of that? Just a backup for Wembanyama if he has injuries.
I mean, 4 years is given a 34-year-old.
Those Celtics will miss him. I know he's a good shot blocker.
Oh, they'll miss him. The
shooter.
Celtics, they got no size anymore. I mean, more moves will be made.
They're a second apron team. There's nothing they can do. Talking about the Celtics, there's nothing they can do. The Mavericks with D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah, there is something they could do.
What's that?
You can trade and draft for needs.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. Oh well, we like Ugo.
You know what's funny about Joe Mazzulla?
Probably our board, and
this is the only funny thing about Joe Mazzulla. He always tries to talk down how people think they're nothing but a 3-point shooting team, and you bring in Luka Garza, who is nothing but a 3-point shooting big man. Like, I think this team just wants to shoot threes. I think that's all they want to do. I think Joe Mazzulla has been figured out. All he is a 3-point. He knows how to coach 3-point shooting team. The Mavericks taking D'Angelo Russell, that's fine. They just needed something in case
they needed minutes.
Kyrie Irving's not ready.
D'Angelo's $20 million years are over. So
yeah, you talked about Lopez going to the Clippers. A solid big to back up Zubac is fine. Ty Jerome, I think, going for the room exception, that was a steal by the Grizzlies.
But like I said, that takes away from G.G. Jackson and Scottie Pippen Jr. and
and what about the Knicks getting Yabusele?
Towns was healthy this year, but we know he's historically not the most durable person.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Also, Josh Hart doesn't have to play power forward as much.
Nope.
And then the Magic getting Tyus Jones. That was actually a solid deal. The Magic are going for it too. The Magic are going to take a stab at it.
The East will be fun to watch. It just, it looks like they're just going to be all slaughtered by the West anyways, which is just more of a buzzsaw as everyone thinks they can win, including Sacramento, who desperately trying to ship out Monk as we speak.
They try to. I mean, there was a rumor there that supposedly they were gonna move out Monk, bring in Schroeder, and they were gonna sign Russell Westbrook with a mid-level exception. And something happened where probably
Detroit didn't want Monk.
Yeah, and they got stuck with Monk, and it's like, okay, we can't sign him with the mid-level if we still have Monk on our books. So they're just trying to find anyone who can get rid of him. That's that, and it sucks.
Sacramento be Sacramento in.
Here's the funny part: like they desperately last offseason, their big centerpiece. We need to keep Malik Monk. We can't let him go. And now it's like we got to get rid of him as soon as possible. I wonder if it was because he turned out to be a locker room cancer along with somebody. I don't know who else it would have been, but supposedly he was part of the anger behind the players wanting to have Mike Brown fired. And now I think the fact that Doug Christie doesn't trust him and wouldn't play him down the stretch, I think that kind of confirms that. Another sneaky signing was the Sixers getting Trendon Watford for nothing. A head scratcher was the Jakob Poeltl getting re-signed again for 3 more years for like $20 million. Why? I know he's a good shop.
We just Toronto be Toronto and Sacramento be Sacramento.
Here's the thing, like you could have waited another year to sign that. I don't think people were knocking on the door in 2026 to get Jakob Poeltl.
I think it just frees up some money as they have some idea of what they want to do. Mm-hmm. Speaking of what they want to do, as we wrap up our season 11, are we renewed for season 12, sir?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay,
of course.
Every year I always ask that. So
I mean, we're always ready to go here. I think the season is coming up is going to be enjoyable. Like you had said earlier, that the East is going to be more open. And I think because the Thunder are so young, but now they're defending champions, that will be interesting. Because if they really if they go for it again and they have like another 60+ win season, now you're thinking to yourself, my God, can anyone beat the Thunder? That's going to be the narrative going through the season. And also LeBron, as it is last year, new TV contract involving NBC and Amazon. So there's a lot of newness going on.
All right. So barring any major Giannis trade, this will be our season finale.
Mm-hmm.
So signing off for Andrew Riche, I'm Adam Murray. Have a good one.
Take care.